Braka, braka. Braka, braka, braka. Hope all is well with everyone. As we get right into it, the monstrosity, soul tides. Most of the time, astral projectors are fighting you. I'm going to say it one more time. Normally, not demons. No. Astral projecting humans going around doing sneaky stuff, walking in the darkness, like in this movie Insidious and all these other Hollywood projections. But hey, as we always say, don't let my mouth tell you. How about you see it for yourself?
We get up there, they tell my oh yeah, you can't bring your phone in. I'm like, first of all, playing the phone and sign some papers. What am I signing for to get into a party? Like what? This man really threw me off. He said they had to prick your blood to get in.
Blood sacrifice thing. I don't know if you got into all that, but you kind of go there, being as though you were in the belly, get to be in the music industry.
To be a member of the Illuminati or a member of the elite society or whatever, I've had motherfuckers come at me on some weirdos, like on some gay, or you should do this. I do that as being inhuman. I do that as I would never do that.
At some point, you're going to get invited into a house. Mm-hmm. And the house is going to be broken down into certain rooms. Mm-hmm. And these rooms are designated by activities. Mm-hmm. So if you don't do the activities, you don't get in the room. And so some of these houses I've been invited to, you get there and you realize, this ain't for me. I wanted to see, could I get invited and get in that house? And then you get in and you realize, man, I don't do this. I don't fuck around like this. You go to the wrong room, though. You be like, oh, damn, bro, that's how you move? You think you want to be in these rooms with these people, and you get in the room and you realize it's not where you want to be or where you need to be.
To be gay in Hollywood, you never expected. They be having these big mansion parties, and the mansion party, the whole mansion is a party, and then it's a separate party in the little rooms. You be looking at all the rooms, and you down and look in the wrong room. Nick, come here. Is that Kessa?
For many people, 2024 has been a year of exposure, especially with what is going on in Hollywood. And it all started with Diddy. But Ben knew that. From the golden age of Hollywood, these things were always happening. There's literally nothing new under the sun. Have you guys heard of what sex magic is? We're going to talk about these terms, but I must have a disclaimer. I am going to filter my words, and I will try to bleep out as many things as possible because we know how YouTube is with certain topics. So support the video, thumbs up, because I have no doubt that this video may not get monetized or may be age restricted. So push it through the algorithm, leave a comment, even if you don't really have much to say, leave a heart emoji or a fire emoji in the comments. We're going to talk about not only the creepy stuff that happened in old Hollywood, but that is still happening today and is being pushed in our faces as jokes, as comedy, but it's really real. And I just want you guys to be aware so that we may not be deceived or blindly, watching things and thinking it's all kiki, because a lot of these things we are welcoming into our homes, these rituals, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, but before we get into all that, first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, Korean Allude, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars through history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. This is episode 4, I believe, on my Dark Hollywood series, which I'll pin the link to this video in the comment section if you want to watch the other episodes where we did Hollywood fixers. We also did the fake planned marriages, lavender marriages, so many cool episodes that we've done on that. But let's get into this. So one of the first people that I did a video for, which is extremely popular, was on Diana Dors. She was the queen of these parties in her era. She was the queen of them, but she used them for a sinister reason. And I won't say it was necessarily her, because she worked with a lot of people in the elite world that would use her face to attract people to come to these parties. It's It's like Woe Vicky saying that she went to a Bella Thorne. She was supposed to go to a Bella Thorne party, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, it's Bella Thorne. So a lot of up-and-comers or people who aspire to be stars are so starstruck that they're about to go to a party of a star that they're willing to literally do anything, which even give their blood.
Especially being in Hollywood and being in the industry, you see a lot of that. In Hollywood, if you're in the industry, the devil, like Illuminati, they try to get you. Especially when you got a big influence you around, you just got to be smart and have discernment and have God's favor over you. Because if you don't got that and you in Cali, you going to get sucked in. And invite you to these parties, these house parties. And then they be like, oh, Whoop the Whoop going to be there, like your favorite rapper. When you get in, you got to give us your phones. Might do some to somebody and then record it and tell them, oh, if you expose us, we're going to post it everywhere. So I was with some friends in LA, and it was this big influencer party. Should I say her name? It was Bella Thorne party. The party said you have to be half naked. I'm like, first of all, I ain't going half naked nowhere. Oh yeah, you can't bring your phone in. I'm like, first of all, who ain't bringing their phone in? Got to sign some papers. What am I signing? Get into a party? Like what? This is where it really threw me off. They said they had to prick your blood to get in. I said, oh no, I'm good. Everyone else went. I called my Uber and left. It's like the thing about it, people move to LA for a dream. They chasing money, fame, clout, whatever. Young girl that's trying to get on, they just moved out there. She gonna, oh yeah, Bella Thorne, you don't know who else in it. Like connections. Me, I'm good.
But people like Diana Dors, you would even have other celebrity women that were gorgeous at the time. They would use their faces to attract these people to come to these parties, right? And then now we know about Diddy and his parties. Everybody know about Diddy and his parties. But Diddy's not the only one who has his parties. There's lots of these celebrities that have these same type of parties, these billionaires. A lot of them have the parties for those specific purposes, okay? But before we get into just the parties and other stuff, I want to talk about the SEX magic. So what is the S magic? That's what we're just going to call it for YouTube. S magic is any type of intimate activity used in magical, ritualistic, or otherwise religious and spiritual pursuits. One practice of S magic is using sensual arousal or climaxing with visualization of a desired result. It's kind of like manifesting, but using that when you're climaxing. A premise posited by S magicians is the concept that sensual energy is a potent force that can be harnessed to transcend one's normally perceived reality. They believe that when you're climaxing, this is when you're the closest to the spiritual world. You let go of your inhibitions. This is why some people, when they climax, they can't help but, even if they're atheists, they call out the Lord's name, etc., blah, blah, blah. That's what S magicians believe. So it's the best time for you to manifest what you want out of life, okay? The earliest known practical teachings of S magic in the Western world came from 19th century American occultist Paschal Beverly Randolph. He was the son of a wealthy Virginian father and a slave mother, and he was a well-known spiritualist. Randolph developed one of the most influential systems of S magic. As per him, the moment when one reaches their climax is the most intense and the most powerful experience a human can have in life. For in that moment, the soul suddenly opens to the divine realm and the breath of God is infused. He said, true S power is God power. As such, the power of climaxing can be used by a man and woman for various gains, both worldly and spiritual. Randolph also insisted that for the magic to be effective and prayers be fulfilled, both the partners involved in should achieve climaxing at the same time, like in the same moment. His teachings were later passed on to numerous secret societies in Europe, the most notable being Ordo Templi Orientis, or OTO. We're going to call him OTO for short. And it was founded by Carl Kellner and Theodore Roust, and all of these are occultists, okay? Aleister Crowley, who many of you should know by now, is like the satanist, the most popular satanist of all. He's the one that popularized the whole Baphomet and all of this. He's just everything I don't stand for. He became involved with Theodore Roust in Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO, following the publications of the Book of Lies between 1912 and 1913. And while the OTO included from its inception the teaching of S magic and the highest degrees of the order, when Crowley became head of the order, he expanded on these teachings and associated them with different degrees as follows. So there's 3 different degrees that he went on to, which is touching yourself, auto-sensual magic techniques, like touching yourself, how to do it solo, basically, and still reach the same type of goal that you want. And then the heterosexual magic techniques were taught between a man and a woman. And then, of course, the third is the anal, which is between, man and man. So where does Hollywood come into that? You guys already know right now, a lot of Hollywood, these parties, that's just what they are. The deeper you go into those roots, that's just what they are. A lot of the rituals they do with live meat, they even eat people in a lot of these parties, right? They'll even eat human flesh, like take a chunk of people's, it's just really, really dark. And a lot of them love the teaching of Aleister Crowley, and these people, they really support them. They'll do the symbolisms, they'll throw it in your face, and you all just think people are being, like, one thing I hate with Westerners, or people who, they just live to doubt. They always live to beg to differ. Is that you think people are just always being dramatic and conspiracy theories and all of these, when the articles are there, the evidence is there, there's employees. We're going to talk about employee accounts and all of those things. These things are real by now. If you're choosing to be blind, then you need to pray that spirit out of you that's choosing to keep you blind, because that is a spirit. There is a spirit of blindness that keeps people blind so that they can be lost and stuck. And you need to pray to be woken up to see clearly what is happening, because it happens. And even say away from Hollywood, sensual magic is used in occult practices, even in like voodoo culture and all of that, and other magical practices and other, Caribbean islands, etc. They do that all the time. I'm from the islands. I know what I'm talking about. Even without being super famous, they do that. They go be intimate, and they go be intimate with young people, etc., blah, 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 and all of that. There's different requirements for it. Some people, depending on what exactly you're trying to manifest, depends on the requirement with magic, right? So say a celebrity wants to revive their dying career, their career has been stale for a minute, and maybe they don't have no one they really love. Most of them are narcissists and love themselves a lot. So there's no one to really, quote unquote, sacrifice. They want to revive their career, and they want to do it through the terms of magic, because maybe they don't want to sacrifice a loved one. Maybe they don't want to sacrifice a loved one, or they don't have a loved one to sacrifice. They'll go and be intimate with someone who is not of age. Okay, the younger that person is, they'll try to get that person heavily influenced to be at the same place as them to be able to climax together. And if it don't work with that person, they'll just go to another person, or until they reach that goal to revive their dying careers. And some like the Rudolph, the founder, one of the people that strongly believed in this, one of the founding fathers of this ideology, he always said the person doesn't have to be under 18, the person doesn't have to be a virgin, the person doesn't have to be all that. He was one of those believers that you didn't have to go the deviant route to do this, but as it evolved over time, it became that to where now you have to be pure, or even if you're not pure, you have to be a certain age, you have to be a certain way, or have a certain look or innocence about you, etc. There's requirements and specifications for them to just lay with you, whether it's a young boy or a young girl. But you guys are catching my drift, right? Even in the magic that's not Hollywood based, if they're doing it just in, like certain cultures and ritualistic practices, they'll do it where there's a specific age range, someone under the age of 5, no older than 5, or no older than 12, or this and that, blah, 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 blah. A young girl who has not gone through puberty yet, or had, her menstruation, or a young girl who just got her menstruation. Like, there's different depending on what exactly you're trying to accomplish. Even the whole thing of collecting your blood at these parties, which is a common thing that you'll hear around in Hollywood, which is, I still don't fully understand what the purpose of that is. I've tried to understand it. I don't understand what that is, but there's an obsession with blood in Hollywood. There's just an obsession. When you even think about Lil Nas X and his shoes and the blood and all this, I don't know. But I know the Bible says your life is in the blood. That's why we should not eat meat with blood. Life is in the blood. I don't know, maybe the obsession is that they got your life. They have your life. They can do things with your blood later on to do things to you in your life. Who knows what it is? I don't know. Comment below your theories on why you think they collect the bloods at the party. I'm curious to see what theories you guys have on that. So let's talk about old Hollywood stars and their deviant ways real quick. So one of the biggest ones was Katharine Hepburn, which I did a video for also. And she was most known for her Academy Award-winning performances and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and so many more. She is one of the greatest actresses of the golden age of Hollywood and was ranked #1 actually on the AFI. So she knew that socialite and pimp Scotty Bowers, who I talked about Scotty Bowers in my Lavender Weddings video, which I did recently on the Hollywood fake marriages. Again, check out the playlist in the comments to see that video. But he set up the stars. Like, he was one of those people that would set up these kind of situations, you know? So he would get you to sleep with whoever he wanted. You just told him who you wanted and he would make it happen. So in Bowers' book, Full Service, he recalls that Hepburn said, and I quote, "I know about your reputation, Scotty. When you get a chance, do you think you can find a nice young dark-haired girl for me? Someone that's not too heavily made up," because Katharine Hepburn was into women, right? Over the next 50 years, Bowers became very close friends with Hepburn. He said, "In the course of time, I would fix her up with over 150 different women. Most of them she would only see once or twice and then tire of them," end quote. And she would continue on to do that. People were saying Katharine Hepburn would use these women to, you know, keep her career afloat, because women and women, that's another order of it as well. So Marlene Dietrich also, I did a video on her, and she gloated about having at least 3 lovers a day, and went all ways. It didn't matter what you were. If she felt like being with you, she was with you. Bridget Bardot also had over 100 lovers. I did a video for her also. All these stars were so reckless when it came to intimacy. And this is why it's so pushed now in films and music, because they want you to become numb to this. They want you to not see it as an issue and without consequences so that they could live in peace. And I know some people get offended thinking, oh, you're being judgmental or not being S positive, right? That's not it, guys. Let's be realistic, okay? Let's be realistic. Look at the statistics for your state on STIs and all of those things. Just look at the statistics. Go Google that now. Pause the video and go look up the statistics. How it's been climbing year by year for especially down south. I live down south. It's bad out here. So I never encourage recklessness if you care for your life. It's not a practice that I would ever encourage. And that doesn't mean not being as positive, but there is a spiritual tie to it. There is a soul tie to it. In my Mental Gems channel, I talk about soul ties and the science of it. Soul ties is a real thing, it's not a biblical thing. I'm saying, like, scientists, physiologists, like, there's been so much research and even psychology and all the medical fields have done research on this concept of the soul tie, especially for women. It's worse for us. It's worse for us. Like, there is a thing as you getting a piece of that person. That's why the Bible says you become one with them. So you're becoming one with so many different people, and you don't know what spirits they have on them, what traumas, what pain, what depression. And this is why there's been so much research done on S workers, and why a lot of them in the PORN industry end up taking their own lives later on. They get into substances. They're so depressed. They're fighting so much mentally, and they even get mental illnesses because there's so much bodies. It's literal bodies that you become one with, to the point where you lose yourself. You don't even know who you are yet. That's not judgment. That's a cautionary tale. We have to be able to tell the truth without, shaming people for warning people or telling the truth. That is the reality with these stars. They had glamorized it. And this was back in the 40s and the 50s. These stars were in the 40s and 50s, and the most, puritanical era where these things are so taboo. They were still glamorizing it to now today. No one is shocked at anyone who says they had over 100 lovers. No one will be shocked. It has become so normalized. No one will be shocked. Men, especially, to them, it's a badge of honor to even have over 1,000. No one will be shocked. If someone, comment below, would you be shocked if you find out your favorite celebrity had over 100 lovers? You probably wouldn't. Diana Dors was one of the country's biggest stars, okay? She was billed as Britain's Marilyn Monroe, and I did a video for her. And she had hosted these type of parties at her Orchard Manor home in Sunningdale, Berkshire. And it really is terrifying how gullible and naive I was and still am, she confessed to author Clive Hirschhorn in 1968. She said, I fell for hard luck stories, the way boys fall for girls. To make things worse, I surrounded myself with gangsters, con men, and phonies, end quote. So this is who she was working with, and she was working with the elite also. So in a way, I don't give her a leeway or make an excuse or anything, but she was working, I believe, in my own opinion, I'm not saying it's fact, for these people, you know, and a lot of the troubles and things that happened later on, I don't know. She was just 19 and already a film star. She got into the industry really, really young. So she started throwing these lavish Hollywood parties. And according to witnesses, these parties would be recorded and later used for blackmail from powerful men. They used her face to attract the stars to go to these glamorous parties. One witness, Max Clifford, the 70-year-old showbiz publicist who denies 11 charges of indecent, relating to 7 females aged 14 to 20 between 1966 and 1984, described himself as a friend of Doors. Doing cross-examination about his sensual history, he denied that the events amounted to group, orgies, let's call them orgies. Sometimes there was intimacy, not hoagies, he said. Let's call them hoagies. Not everyone who went there took their clothes off. There was kissing, caressing, flirtation, end quote. He also shared what these parties were like. He said, drunken revelers in various states of undress gathered in the living room of a rambling home, County's Manor House. Beneath the flickering light of a 5-foot television, they watched grainy footage transmitted via video link of an unsuspecting couple who had chosen to be intimate in one of the dimly lit upstairs bedroom. So one of the rooms upstairs in the party, there was cameras recording and everyone downstairs was watching this couple just be intimate. On the wall was a large 2-way mirror that allowed those of a voyeuristic persuasion to watch from a next door bedroom. It's fair to say that pretty much anything was acceptable during the infamous S parties staged at Orchard Manor in Sunningdale, Berkshire throughout the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. Though she never publicly revealed their names, Doors would often claim in interviews that a generation of film stars, socialites, sportsmen, and TV personalities had caroused at her mock 2-door home. Indeed, she often joked that were she than all of the well-known people who had intimacy under its roof, she'd been able to publish my own version of Who's Who, end quote. Diana Doors later had a young girl accuse her of touching her without her permission, if you catch my drift. I broke that down in my Diana Doors video, so check that video out also. But allegedly, Diana was inviting young girls who are not yet of age that wanted to be famous to these parties and telling them if they pleased the right person, they could get a dream movie role, etc. And unfortunately, these girls would later accuse her of taking advantage of them as well. So it's just very, very unfortunate how she just went down. But let's talk about these employees of these mansions, hotels, and yachts where these parties are held. Like, Karine, how do they get away with this? Who cleans up the mess? Because they're certainly not cleaning up the mess after, right? They have intense trauma from these things they witness. It's insane, especially those in the hotel industry. I can't even imagine. And Vice does a lot of, it's called The Informer. They do a lot of interviews with these people to talk about some of the stuff that they've experienced and just some of the trauma. I'll try to share some of the clips, but keep in mind if it goes out, probably because they were too explicit and YouTube had me cut it out with editing. So hopefully you guys can hear the clip. If not, I'll put some links in the description of the Vice interviews so you guys can go check them out, but I'll share some pieces.
One weekend, a large group of around 60-ish people, they wanted to purchase out the entire hotel so they could just turn it into a giant orgy. The cost of that property was upwards of $250,000. That says you've got money to spend. They left a nightmare room. Blood, feces. I worked as an operations manager for around 10 plus years. Most people who visit boutique hotels are not coming for business. They're there for pleasure. The people who are coming to visit you, famous pop stars, Russian oligarchs, they have a private plane that they get in a private vehicle with all tinted blackout windows. Sometimes they have security squads. There was a group of fabulously wealthy individuals. You can definitely get a sense of how much wealth they actually have when they're talking about things like buying a fleet of Boeings in the lobby casually. They were spending as much as a luxury wedding. And it was basically a giant swingers, and every single room would have a different theme and a safe word posted outside of the door. The one that stands out to me was there's a birthday themed room. It was actually kind of impressive, the details they went, so it was very like under the sea vibe. They would purposely wait to start having until housekeeping wanted to clean the room. They wanted somebody to watch. And after all of the drama and mental scarring that we put up with for this group, probably between about 30 staff. I want to say we made $20 in tips. The problem with working with the fabulously wealthy is that they often assume that the staff is there at their beck and call regardless of what the request is. It was really common for the high rollers to approach attractive staff members. The biggest thing that the public doesn't understand about the hotel industry is that there are wild things happening behind closed doors every single day. Fabulously wealthy individuals are wild.
I was in like a 50 person. At the end of that kind of experience, you don't really know like who you've had sex with, what they look like, you don't know anyone's name. A lot of the straight parties are very white, very thin, very young, and very blonde as well. I would say generally if you're black or Asian, you don't see as many people there. There is a whole space in Britain for old swingers. There's like cruises, there's whole resorts in Mexico. In London, a lot of the parties have staff who will watch out for rule breaks, they'll monitor, which I'm sure is not particularly a fun job, and anytime they see behaviour that's not okay, they'll normally call someone out and probably ban them from ever coming to the club again. I think it's really hard to balance like emotional boundaries with the lifestyle. I think since being in the lifestyle, my sexual boundaries have shifted quite a lot. I kind of ceased to be shocked by pretty much any sexual behaviour. Like, I have friends who are into like this play. I think what can end up happening is you, the partner that you're with, if you're singing together, can end up being so driven and obsessed by like new sex, like lose touch of the emotion that you.
So they got sex rituals for straights, gays, in between, by yourself. Man, it's crazy, man. All the works of Aleister Crowley and Hermes, formerly we know as Mercury. These are what these people the bowls of wrath to us. You know what I'm saying? The 7 trumpets. It's judgment time. And while we sleep, these people astral projecting, touching us. It says they used to do anybody. Now they only do specific kind because only the righteous have the power. After Kyrie's reset the world and set the captives free, we started over again. And there were those that didn't want to let go of the old system of sin. So here it is again. Mess up a little leaven in your lump. A lump in your leaven, and the whole leaven is messed up.
That you two have together. And it was very difficult. It evolved into an unwanted, like 24/7 dynamic. I think when you're very you see it as, oh, my partner wants this, like that's chill, I'm chill with this. But in reality, it's like a lot of control over time.
Watch why Japanese people eat white rice.
Rice is pure glucose in starch form. It is one of the fastest ways to raise your blood sugar of any of the starches. But the Italians are very clever with their starches. They purposely
Wow. Now I want to act up.
Reality, it's like a lot of control over time. You end up in these situations where you're kind of you don't necessarily want people to like justify the ticket price. I think a lot of people are, and they kind of want to believe that a lot of what happens to them is consensual. If you approach the police about something, for example, I haven't really heard about anyone doing that because, you know, if you're in a lifetime where you don't want to shut the club down, I think if you are sadistic, you get off specifically on humiliating women, or you specifically get off on hurting people in a way that they don't enjoy. It's a space where a lot of people can convince themselves they're okay with things that they're not.
I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine some of these things. Just horrific to be an employee of these yachts, dimensions, to clean up the things that they go through. But it's not just celebrities in Hollywood. It's also politicians, rich people, wealthy. Like, they just get so bored with their wealth. It kind of shows me, like with Squid Game, that was a message I got from Squid Game, is that rich people get so bored that they find new ways to torture poor people. And it's just so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. I don't even have much to say on this, but comment below your thoughts. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about this? And I do believe with social media, with society becoming more open to listening to victims and stuff like that, you get to hear more of those things. But you do have with these social platforms, they're trying to censor it heavily. Like, look at YouTube right now. You know, I can't even talk about these things on YouTube without YouTube flagging and community guidelines, age restriction, messing with your dime. They've done that with a couple of the videos, and it's been very unfortunate. But they are trying to censor as much as possible. But I feel like the more you know and expose these things, because a lot of people, I'll say this for a lot of celebrities, they do get sucked into it. And it's not that they want to be into it. They don't want to be sucked into that lifestyle, but they get sucked into it through the blackmail. And then they feel trapped to continue to do these things. And a lot of these people have mommy, daddy issues. They're people pleasers. They didn't know how to say no. They felt like they had no choice. And then now they resort to substance use. They resort to self-harm, being mean to people, have attitudes. And we the consumers are judging them and, like, oh, this person, not knowing just how deeply they got sucked into it. And then how we feel better about judging them. We make ourselves feel better by saying, well, they wanted to be famous. That's the cost of fame. You want to be a public figure. Well, You don't feel bad for them knowing that. I mean, if you were given the same position, if you're in the same position, you probably would end up worse than them. If you were down and out broke, with a lot of the people that do become famous have tragic childhoods and tragic stories of their upbringing, and they're looking for a way out, or they went through extreme poverty and they wanted a way out, and imagine, they felt like they got into an industry they didn't really know. I mean, now that we know what we know about the industry, I do like, okay, everybody should know. Everybody should know by now. It ain't pretty. If you still get sucked into some of this life, you are choosing it. You are choosing it. I don't know. But in the times, especially before social media, especially before, I'll even say 2024, which has been a wonderful year for knowledge. Wonderful year. If you don't know by now, go and find out. A lot of people still didn't know, and then we're getting caught up. And even as influencers, I will never do an influencer party. I don't try to mingle with all that extra stuff. No, because even in that life, they have their own subcultures, and you don't even have to be famous.
There you have it, folks. Where all the diseases actually come from, what's really going on. Teach it to your children, teach it to your youth, your nieces, your nephews. Let them know it's a wax worse world out there they're not really prepared for. And when one stranger tries to befriend you, it's never for you. BC the Tish Fight, BC the Ivet Group. Shalom, Brak.